The story begins quietly, almost gently, with the kind of morning that doesn't hint at anything extraordinary yet. Everything about it slowly leads toward a moment that would soon echo across millions of hearts. In a hospital tucked inside the busy rhythm of Manila, a young Filipino doctor named Drive Leona Morales walked through a hallway she knew better than the back of her own hand, moving past familiar faces, tired nurses finishing night shifts, patients waking up with hopeful eyes, and co-workers who respected her not just for her knowledge, but for her uncanny ability to stay calm, even when chaos tried to swallow the room. She was soft-spoken, thoughtful, the kind of person who blended into the background, because her kindness didn't need spotlight. It radiated quietly, the way the morning sun slips through a window without asking permission. Nobody who worked with her imagined that. Deep inside, this gentle doctor lived another world. A world built on melodies she almost never shared. A world where her soul spoke louder than her words ever could. For most people around her, she was simply Drive Morales. The one who remembered everyone's names. The one who worked late without complaining. The one who hummed softly under her mask. During long shifts, though, almost nobody noticed. Yet music had always been her first love. Something she kept tucked away like a secret diary. Something she returned to only when the world was asleep. As a child, she sang everywhere in school and church. In the small living room of her parents' simple home, where her mother's eyes shimmered proudly every time her voice drifted through the walls. But life had chosen a different path for her. Or maybe she had chosen it herself. Pushed by responsibility, by dreams of giving her parents a better life, by the belief that music was a luxury and medicine was a duty, the hospital became her world. And the stage she once imagined slowly faded into a distant memory. Yet music never left her, it hid quietly inside her, whispering softly whenever she felt overwhelmed, comforting her during long nights, reminding her of the part of herself she never fully outgrew. Sometimes after saving a life or losing one, she would sit alone in the on-call room, close her eyes and let a song escape, just enough to soothe the heaviness that medicine often brings. A nurse once overheard her and told her she should be on television, but Leona only laughed, brushing it off as silly. Impossible, unrealistic. She was a doctor, not a singer, and life had no space for impossible dreams. But destiny has a strange way of nudging people when they least expect it. One evening after an exhausting 12-hour shift, one of her closest friends convinced her to audition for a small online singing contest. She didn't take it seriously, recorded a quick video in her scrubs, hair messy from hours of work without filters, without preparation, without the slightest expectation that anyone outside her circle would even watch it. But within days, the video exploded, spreading across social media, reaching people who had never met her, touching hearts that connected instantly with the raw honesty of her voice. Strangers commented that her voice felt like a healing touch, like something divine, like something that deserved a bigger stage. Weeks later, she received an unexpected email from a casting coordinator for America's Got Talent. At first, she thought it was spam, a prank or some kind of misunderstanding. She even ignored it for a week, until her friend forced her to respond. It felt unreal, terrifying, unbelievable, and yet a small spark inside her, a spark she thought she had buried forever, flickered awake. She agreed to audition, unsure of what she was stepping into, unsure if she was good enough, unsure if she belonged on a stage filled with the world's most gifted performers. But she said yes anyway, maybe because deep down, she knew this was a chance life wouldn't offer twice. The day she flew to Los Angeles, she carried her stethoscope in her bag, partly out of habit, partly because she couldn't let go of the identity she had built. She told nobody at the hospital, afraid they would think she was abandoning them, afraid they would think she was chasing something childish. But they found out anyway, and instead of disappointment, she saw pride in their eyes, the same kind of pride her mother used to have when she sang as a little girl. That was the first moment she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she had the right to step on that stage. When she arrived backstage at AGT, surrounded by dancers, magicians, comedians, vocalists, people who had trained their whole lives, for moments like this she felt small, overwhelmed, almost insignificant. Some contestants warmed up with fierce vocal runs. Some practiced choreography. Some prayed silently, and she simply stood in a corner, breathing slowly, reminding herself that she was here not to win, not to prove anything, but to share something she had hidden for far too long. Hours passed, and finally her name was called. She walked toward the stage with trembling hands. Her heart beat loud enough she feared the microphone might pick it up. The lights were blinding, the audience murmured with curiosity, and in front of her sat the judges: Simon Cowell, Howie Mandel, Heidi Klum, and Sofia Vergara, each watching her with expressions she couldn't read. Simon leaned forward slightly, narrowing his eyes the way he often does. When trying to understand a person before they even speak, she introduced herself softly, her voice barely above a whisper, telling them she was a doctor from the Philippines. The judges exchanged quick glances, pleasantly surprised, intrigued, curious about what a doctor was doing on the AGT stage. Simon asked her why she was there, and she hesitated, choosing her words carefully. Feeling her throat tighten, she said she loved helping people through medicine. But there was another part of her, a part she had silenced for too long, a part that still dreamed of singing. Her answer was honest, vulnerable. The kind that makes an audience lean in, the kind that reveals more emotion than she intended. The moment she finished speaking, a soft wave of applause filled the theater. Not loud, not wild, but warm, supportive, encouraging, and then the music began. A gentle instrumental that flowed through the auditorium like the slow opening of a book. She closed her eyes, inhaled deeply, and when her first note filled the air, everything changed. The audience leaned forward instinctively. The murmurs disappeared. The judge's eyes widened with immediate recognition that something special, something rare, something breathtaking was happening. Her voice wasn't loud or aggressive. It was pure, crystalline, angelic. The kind of voice that carried emotion effortlessly. The kind that made people forget everything else around them as she sang. Her nerves melted away until only the music remained. The story of her life, her sacrifices, her quiet nights in the hospital, her unspoken dreams, all of it echoed in every note she delivered. Her voice floated through the room with so much sincerity that some audience members wiped tears from their eyes without even realizing they were crying. Heidi leaned toward Sofia, whispering something with a stunned expression, while Howie covered his mouth, shaking his head in disbelief. Simon didn't move at all, his expression frozen somewhere between shock and awe. The kind of look he rarely shows, the kind reserved only for talents that hit directly at the soul. Halfway through the song, something magical happened. She opened her eyes and saw the audience standing. Not at the end, not in courtesy, but in genuine admiration, rising because they couldn't remain seated any longer. She saw the sparkle of lights from hundreds of phones recording her. She saw tears. She saw smiles. She saw strangers, connected through the raw honesty of her voice. That moment felt surreal to her, like watching a dream she never dared to dream come to life right before her. When she reached the final note, a soft, lingering note that hovered in the air like a prayer, the entire room erupted into applause cheers. Whistles, the kind of explosive reaction, reserved for the rarest of performances. She covered her mouth, overwhelmed, tears spilling down her cheeks, not because she expected this, but because she never believed something like this could ever happen to her. The judges took a moment before speaking, almost as if they needed time to recover. Heidi was the first to talk, her voice filled with admiration, telling her she sounded like an angel who stepped on earth just long enough to sing. Sofia said she gave her chills, real chills that she could feel running down her arms. Howie praised her sincerity, saying her voice didn't just sound beautiful, it felt meaningful, heartfelt, unique, but everyone waited for Simon. Because they knew his reaction mattered most. He looked at her in silence for a few seconds, the audience holding its breath, the room still buzzing with emotion. Finally, he said that her performance reminded him of why this show exists. That people like her, people who dedicate their lives to helping others, and yet hide extraordinary talent within themselves, deserve the world stage, he said. Her voice was pure, effortless, stunning, something he didn't expect from someone who claimed she barely sings anymore, and then, with a small smile that made the audience scream in anticipation, He pressed the golden buzzer. Golden confetti exploded from above, raining down like a dream, shimmering under the lights, swirling around her, as if the universe was celebrating her moment. She froze, hands shaking, tears flowing uncontrollably as she looked at the judges, then at the audience, then at the sky of gold falling around her. She didn't know what to feel first: shock, joy, disbelief, gratitude, relief. Everything came at once. Simon walked toward her, giving her a gentle hug, telling her she deserved this, telling her she needed to believe in herself now. Not someday, not maybe, but now. The stage crew, the judges, the audience, everyone watched her with the kind of admiration usually reserved for legends, not for a doctor who hid behind her scrubs every day. She knew that this moment wasn't just for her. It was for her parents, who worked so hard to support her dreams. It was for her patients who trusted her to heal them. It was for her younger self, the little girl who sang with stars in her eyes, but grew up thinking life didn't have room for impossible dreams. And it was for everyone watching, whoever felt too ordinary, too busy, too responsible, too afraid to chase something their heart still whispered about. Backstage, when the confetti finally settled and the cameras dimmed, she sat alone for a moment, holding the golden confetti in her hands, trying to absorb the reality of what had just happened. Contestants walked by congratulating her. Producers praised her performance, and strangers hugged her, but she stayed quiet, overwhelmed, emotional, unable to fully understand how her life had shifted so dramatically in a matter of minutes. She thought about the hospital, about her co-workers who would probably watch the episode and scream in excitement. She thought about the patients she would return to after this journey, imagining their smiles when they recognized her. She thought about all the sacrifices she had made, and how somehow life had still given her a moment of pure, unfiltered magic as days passed. Her audition spread across social media, reaching millions of viewers, touching hearts around the world. People called her the angel doctor, the healing voice, the miracle singer. Some said her voice helped them through anxiety, grief, heartbreak. Others said her story reminded them that dreams don't expire just because life becomes difficult. The world embraced her not only for her voice, but for her humility, her authenticity, her courage to step out of the life she knew and into a world she feared she didn't belong to. But she did belong, and the world knew it long before she did. Her journey on AGT continued, filled with emotion, surprise, and growth. Each round she performed with more confidence, more passion, more heart, until the entire world saw what her co-workers had felt all along, that she wasn't just a doctor who happened to sing. She was a singer whose soul lived inside music, and a doctor whose heart lived inside compassion, and somehow she carried both identities with incredible grace. People often said she had two gifts, one that healed the body and one that healed the soul. And maybe that was true. Maybe that's why her voice resonated so deeply, why her story felt so meaningful, why people connected to her instantly. She didn't come to AGT for fame. She didn't chase spotlight. She didn't perform to prove anything. She sang because singing was a part of her that she had ignored for too long, and the moment she allowed it to breathe again, the world responded years from now. People will still remember that moment. The soft-spoken doctor from the Philippines, standing under a storm of golden confetti, tears in her eyes, her dream finally alive, her heart finally heard. They will remember how she stepped on that stage unsure, quiet, trembling, and stepped off glowing, transformed, empowered, as if she had finally reclaimed the part of herself she thought she had lost forever. Her story remains a reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary talents come from the most unexpected places. Sometimes the people who spend their lives serving others forget their own dreams, and sometimes all it takes is one moment, one risk, one song to open a door that changes everything. And for Dr. Liana Morales, that moment wasn't just a performance. It wasn't just an audition. It wasn't just a golden buzzer. It was a beginning of a story. She once believed she didn't deserve to live, but when the world insisted she was meant to tell,